During President Trump's Pittsburgh rally at U.S. Steel Corporation, he made a major announcement. Also, Democrats are slamming Joe Biden for his disastrous speech, and CNN gets embarrassed once again after they lose a debate on men playing in women's sports.
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States. Nobody's going to get around that. So we're bringing it up from 25%. We're doubling it to 50%.
Okay, so you just heard President Trump make a major announcement there. He's raising tariffs from 25% to 50% on foreign steel that is imported here to America. Now, this comes as he was giving a speech in Pittsburgh to celebrate this new agreement between U.S. Steel Corporation and the Japanese steel company Nippon. Now, let's go over the facts because already the media is reacting to this, and so we want to do our research, right? And so the bottom line up front, the good news here is that Japan's Nippon Steel is going to invest $14 billion in U.S. steel facilities across several states and build a new electric arc furnace mill in the U.S., ensuring the company remains American controlled. Now, you'd think mainstream media would be focusing on that. No. In fact, they're more worried about what's in the actual contract, what's in the deals. It's as if they want to be in the room. Take a look.
We're trying to get to the specifics of what everyone actually cares about. The bottom line that everyone cares about, the steel workers. This is why we've seen the U.S. steel workers not support this deal, because they're trying to protect the steel workers, is how much of U.S. steel will Nippon own at the end of this deal. And we just cannot get a straight answer on this, because we know that the Japanese company said over and over again they would not do a deal in which they did not control the company. However, Donald Trump said this is more of a partnership, that the U.S. was going to keep control of U.S. steel. Of course, he wouldn't sign a deal unless that was part of it.
Okay, so we wouldn't expect anything less from CNN. In fact, President Trump consulted with U.S. Steel Corporation and other industry leaders when coming up with the number 50%, by the way. But again, CNN will fail to tell you that, just like Jake Tapper failed to report on Joe Biden's mental decline. Now he wants to make money off of it. But okay, let's get back to ground.news, all right? If you guys want to follow along, again, go to ground.news/Devori. This is what CNN is reporting. This is from the left. Trump called it a disaster. Biden blocked it. Now Trump is traveling to Pittsburgh to celebrate Japan's takeover of U.S. steel. It's not a takeover. It's a partnership. And that's why when you read this article that leans right, they say Pittsburgh communities welcome new steel partnership. Trump's arrival at rally. Do you see the difference there? And guys, the bottom line to why I continue to push ground news so hard is because I don't want you taking my word for it. I love it when you guys sometimes correct us in the comment section or send us that email. You know why? That means you're thinking for yourself. In order to help you do that, I encourage you to use ground news. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
There will be no layoffs and no outsourcing whatsoever, and every U.S. steel worker will soon receive a well-deserved $5,000 bonus. That's very nice. Thank you very much. That's great. That's importantly. For what you've gone through a lot. It's closing, it's not closing, it's opening, and you want to stay here. People say, well, we'll move to another place, or we'll do chips, or we'll do something like chips. Somehow you don't want to do chips. I'm looking at these giant guys with the giant arms. You're not going to like doing chips. Most importantly, U.S. Steel will continue to be controlled by the USA. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done the deal. I wouldn't have done it.
And you just heard that great news for people who work for U.S. Steel Corporation. They're going to be receiving a $5,000 bonus due to the agreement with that Japanese company, Nippon. Now, of course, the media is all obsessed with how much American control do we really have in this deal? That's why I said they act as if they are the ones in the room negotiating this stuff, but they need to pump the brakes and let the deal actually unfold. The bottom line is, according to President Trump, he said he wouldn't make a deal unless we have American control in this agreement. So clearly, what could that be? Could it be 50.5%, 50.1% or 55%. I don't know, but we will find out in time. Now, here's what he had to say right after that rally on Truth Social. It's my great honor to raise the tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25 to 50% effective Wednesday, June 4th. Our steel and aluminum industries are coming back like never before. This will be yet another big jolt of great news for our wonderful steel and aluminum workers. Make America great again.
I'm intrigued by something that you pointed out earlier, Brett, which was the reaction of the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, who called it a BFD, praising this deal. We've seen the Senator John Fetterman, also a Democrat, in some ways working with the Trump administration, working with the president, not taking this knee-jerk, reflexive resistance posture that we've seen from so many Democrats across the country. It seems like high-ranking Democrats in the Keystone State are looking around, seeing what's happening in their state, and very much taking a different approach to the Trump administration than many of their colleagues elsewhere.
So the bottom line here is Democrats are celebrating this move by President Trump, and that says something. Now, before we go any further, if you guys have been getting value from our channel in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support us further, feel free to buy us a cup of coffee. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Okay, let's go to our next story. The reactions are finally rolling in from Joe Biden's speech from earlier today, which was a major disaster. I don't understand why they continue to allow him to go in front of a mic and a camera. And when reporters start to ask him questions, he doubled down on this idea that no one could have challenged him, and two, he would have won the election. Now, of course, even Democrats had to come out and reject what he said, starting with Dean Phillips. Take a look.
You know my position well enough to know that I'm deeply disappointed in both parties, both our current president and our former president. I certainly have some issues with, but what you just asked me about, what I think it's kind of sad. And he knows, President Biden knows, that the DNC, the RNC, these are private corporations, Rob, that don't answer to voters and don't answer to the general public. They do what they want. And he knows very well that when he decided to run for president, that nobody of national prominence, access to resources, consultants, and the machine would do it because they would lose their careers. And you know as well as anybody, that's the most important asset in Washington, is sticking around. So with that said, that's why nobody ran. That's why I implored that they do. And that's why I did it myself, because in this country, we still are a democracy. We need people to stand up and run. In the last election, a lot of Republicans chose to run against Donald Trump. And that's no easy task. And I just wish some Democrats had served their country and not their personal interests by doing the same thing.
Well, I find Dean Phillips, to be fair, he's what I would expect a regular Democrat to sound like. Okay, I don't agree with most of the things he says, but he's not unhinged like AOC or Jasmine Crockett, right? And so it's interesting that when I would say probably the good part of the Democrat Party actually tried to run against him, they were shut out immediately, and he was one of them. So again, stop allowing Joe Biden to go in front of a camera and say things like that. It's just embarrassing. Now, he wasn't the only one. Here is someone by the name of Karen Finney, who I have never agreed with whatsoever on any takes, except this one. Take a look.
Why didn't they run against me then? Because I'd have beaten them.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't have any regrets.
Yeah, I don't love that answer. I'll be honest with you about that one. Look, I was someone who believed that when he said he was going to be a bridge, I thought that was the right decision, and I had hoped that he would do that. And the revelations that we've seen in the book by our own Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson of Axios.
Two people. Would that both of them, two people?
Yeah. Beat them?
Co-authors?
The co-author? Sorry, did I? Yeah.
He left that somewhat ambiguous.
You're connecting the proper dots,
yeah.
I believe.
But look, personally, I've been shocked and very disappointed. And it's malpractice. The people who are around him should never have let him believe that he could win, because I can tell you myself and many Democrats were looking at data even early in the year, certainly by June. He was not consolidating the base, period, full stop.
Now, I agree with what she's saying, but I just disagree with her in general because, again, she's one of the individuals who were pretty much defending him aggressively at every turn. And it's only now that her colleague, Jake Tapper, has released a book that they're all feeling okay to finally tell the truth. They're late to the party, and quite frankly, this party's over, right? The new party is really the investigations that are going to happen in Congress as it pertains to his aides and the people who participated in the cover-up. And now we have people like Stephen A. Smith, who's been interviewing Jake Tapper, and here's some of his thoughts about this entire cover-up situation. Take a look.
So many people have been focused on Jake Tapper and what he did or didn't do leading up to the election, and how he's coming on in the aftermath, and he's saying, hey, well, look at what I've discovered. I interviewed almost 200 people. All of them were Democrats and what have you. And here's what we've learned. I'm like, forget all that. Forget Jake Tapper. Forget Alex Thompson. I don't mean that disrespectfully. The focus should be, who the hell was it in the White House and who the hell was it within our government that knew Biden was debilitated to that degree? You're basically guilty of everything you've accused the Republicans of doing, which means I don't want to hear a damn thing they have to say, because that's inexcusable. If you're going to be up and try to stand on some moral high ground, then have morals, have principles, because that's what you say in the other side of the act, but you didn't do it yourself. I want to know who the hell knew. I want to know how much they knew. If they were an elected official, if they were a part of the administration, I think they should be banned from public office for life.
Obviously, Stephen A. Smith, his heart is in the right place on this particular issue. No question that people should be held accountable, but will it happen? Probably not. Now, here's some good news. Even though mainstream media, from a legality standpoint, will never be held accountable on this, their ratings are in the tank. Their ratings are worse than they've ever been, and it's going to continue to get worse. So don't worry, they're paying the price. Nobody listens to them. Okay, the news is becoming decentralized, and that's a great thing. In regards to the aides surrounding Biden, well, we'll see what Congress ends up doing if they actually have a backbone to hold these people accountable. Now, here's Tommy Lauren on Jesse Waters saying this.
Well, the other brave reporter was the one who got sniffed. And I just hope she's okay right now, because that was a little too close for comfort. You're right about the reporters, though. You'd think they'd ask about the auto pen, about how he pardoned his entire family, about how the book said they were going to stuff him in a wheelchair. None of these questions were asked, and it looks like the cover-up continues. You heard Tapper, Tommy, say the media was scared, making a lot of excuses. This is like the third excuse for why they didn't ask the right questions.
Yeah, Jesse, and I'd also say we have our reporters at Fox News ask the Trump administration tough questions all the time. It's really not that hard. If you're scared, maybe pick a different business, because you're literally supposed to be the watchdog for the American people. And I'd also say, as far as Republicans go, enough of these writing the letters to these staffers and these aides. Start sending out the actual subpoenas. Put some weight behind it. The Democrats are cutthroat. They want to go after somebody. They want answers. They throw out the subpoenas and they go for it. Republicans, we send cutesy little letters and we hope that people will respond in 5 to 10 business days. No. Amazon Prime those subpoenas. Get them. Get these people in front of Congress. Let's get some answers. No more Mr. Nice Guy on this. I think we need some Republicans with some teeth.
Well, Tommy's right about one thing. Republicans don't have a backbone. And what's interesting, I say this all the time, there's a difference between being a Republican and a conservative. Just because you're a Republican and you serve in Congress does not mean for the people on the right, you really have our best interests at heart. These people are not going to be held accountable, guys. We might as well accept it now. And how do we know that to be true? Because none of them have been held accountable for this stuff. And if we already know, if it was President Trump and the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be losing their minds. Okay, so in the context of losing your mind, CNN is continuing to be so concerned with A.B. Hernandez. Who is that? Remember, that's the junior in high school who was born a male, who is participating in girls track and field and is now heading to the state championships. Now, Julie Hamill, who heads up her own law firm, is on CNN today, made an appearance to fight back against this nonsense. And I think she put CNN in their place. Let's take a look.
Make this fair for her to compete, for those who are competing against her. What would that kind of structure in competition look like?
Who is her?
A.B.
Okay, A.B. Hernandez is a male who identifies as a female. What would be fair is to have Hernandez competing in the male category. It is not fair to the females competing to have to compete with a male.
Okay, so in Trump's federal funding threat, is that something, though, that would hurt all student athletes, including athletes who are assigned female at birth?
Would his federal funding threat hurt athletes?
If the money is taken away.
Right. So the law actually says that schools that do not abide Title IX or other federal laws cannot receive federal funds. So that's not Trump's fault. The problem is that the state with AB 1266.
But you understand, Julie, there's a...
Okay, so that's the nonsense that I was telling you guys about. And in two separate issues from today from CNN, they clearly highlight what's wrong with our country. You see, in one area, when you're talking about immigration, they don't believe in the word illegal alien. In fact, they don't even believe if you cross the border illegally that you're a criminal. That's why they call them undocumented migrants. And in this entirely separate issue that we're talking about now, men playing in women's sports, if you were born a male and you now want to identify as a female, CNN believes you're a female. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the devil at work. It starts in the mind, people. They program people to think it's okay, that this is good stuff, that this isn't harming anybody. But clearly it is. That's why Title IX exists.
You understand there's two views here on Title IX. So just to be clear, not everyone agrees with you on how you're viewing it. So in that regard, if you were to take away the funding on as it pertains to trans athletes, not everyone agrees with you. I think we just have to be clear about that. If you are taking away the funds for athletes, student athletes in California, isn't that going to hurt all of them?
Taking away federal funds is going to hurt all California kids, which is why the state of California needs to comply with federal law. It's very simple.
So when you dig into the science on trans athletes, what is really clear is that there needs to be a lot more research on a lot more trans athletes to be able to draw better conclusions about the effect of whether gender-affirming care actually reduces or eliminates the advantage conferred on an athlete who is genetically male. Would you welcome more research? Is this a situation where more research might help?
I absolutely think that more research and more careful and thoughtful discussion is necessary here. Pediatric sex change procedures are very harmful and they cause lifelong damage to children. And this is something that the United States of America needs to examine thoughtfully, and people need to be able to discuss openly without being called bigots and transphobes.
All right, so there's a couple of things. Number one, I relate to the way she's handling this interview because this lady is asking stupid questions, okay? My facial expressions would be the same. All right, you'd know if you asked me a stupid question because you'll see it on my face. They're not interested in having an intellectual or thoughtful debate here. They're looking to push a narrative. Point number two, why is it that you never hear of people being born as a female, transitioning to being a male, and competing in male sports? Why is that? Because biologically speaking, they have no chance.
I view AB Hernandez as the victim in this situation. I feel for him, and I feel that he has been lied to for his entire life, and it's probably very destabilizing and difficult for him right now to realize that what he's been told is not actually reality. He cannot become a girl. What he can do is compete in the male category.
Okay,
or
let's
if
stick to sports. So you say compete in the male category or what?
Or if the state and CIF want to create a separate category for people like AB Hernandez, and that's something that they want to do, fine. It is not fair to female athletes who have worked their entire lives for this kind of competition, who also, by the way, cannot speak out for fear of retaliation, which AB Hernandez's mother has personally threatened against them. So it's very unfair for our girls and women in California to have to compete with males, have to share facilities with males, and then not be able to speak up about the unfairness because people are going to label them as bigots.
Wow. I mean, she triggered the CNN host there. That's funny, man. I just don't understand why they aggressively defend this nonsense. I mean, listen, I'm with her, okay? At a minimum, why are you guys not arguing for a third league to be created? Okay, transgender league. All right? If you guys want to participate in transgender league, go at it. That way you still get to compete. Resources could still be put behind it. You could probably still receive funding. But at the same time, everybody wins. They get to compete and girls get to compete against girls. See, this notion that all of a sudden you can be a girl is a joke. Okay? And for the girls out there, I'm sure you're offended at this idea that someone who will never get a period can say that they're a girl all of a sudden. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because now I'm getting a little worked up. But now I want to actually hear from you guys in the comment section below to a few of these stories that we discussed in this video today. All right, starting with the big one, President Trump announcing that he's increasing foreign steel imports in regards to tariffs from 25% to 50%. Do you support that move from the president? And did you see how the media was already trying to spin that? Secondly, what do you think about people reacting to what Joe Biden had to say earlier, particularly Dean Phillips? Listen, I think it's a joke. I think it's embarrassing to allow him to continue to speak in front of a camera. It shouldn't be that way. But in his case, it is. And then give me your take about men playing in girls' sports, especially in California. Put all your answers in the comment section below. All right, so there was major news earlier today where the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of President Trump once again. This is a major legal setback for Democrats. They are allowing him to revoke temporary status of these undocumented migrants, as they would call them. And also, Joe Biden made his appearance, gave a speech, and let me tell you, it was a disaster. So if you want to check out those stories from earlier today, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.